And that's the thing. I find that couples that have this belief that love should be easy, they also believe that it should be easy all the time. And quite frankly, love is something that you earn every single day, that you work for, and that has work embedded within it.
We have beliefs about love that are impacting the way we show up to that relationship, the way that we engage, the way that we navigate, and it really negatively impacts the quality of the relationship and the sustainability and the longevity of the relationship. Hey everybody, this is Bianca.
And this is Emilia.
And welcome to another episode of Evolve Ventures, where we are making evolution possible for growth-minded humans, just like each and every single one of you who devotedly come here every week to gain some insight through vulnerable lessons, stories, and technology. We hope you enjoyed last week's episode number 163, Motivation Monday, How to Find More Hope. It's a tough topic for a lot of people. You know, we really dove into why is it so hard to feel hopeful? What gets in the way? And how can you start working towards having a greater sense of hope? Because that feeling of hopelessness is really debilitating and it keeps you from really having the things you want in your life. So if you haven't listened to that yet, finish this one first and then, backtrack it. So today for episode number 164, these beliefs are hurting your relationship. So I am not a relationship expert by any means, but I've had enough relationships to understand what were the things that were keeping us from really being able to be there for each other and really to be able to have a really healthy, sustainable working relationship. And Emilia has worked with hundreds, if not thousands of people at this point when it comes to relationships. So I really think this is going to be a good episode. And the reason I wanted to do this episode was for that exact reason. I think there's so many people who are in relationships where they're unintentionally hurting each other because of these really misguided beliefs that they have. And so many of my clients are really going through this, which is why I wanted to do an episode about this so that, there's just one resource that everyone can go to gain some feedback on this. So Emilia and have 5 beliefs that we are going to go through. So why don't we pitch and catch? So you do your first one, I'll do my second, and we'll go from there.
Before we do that, B, I think that you and I live in a world where we understand beliefs in and out and what a limiting belief is. So I want to make sure any new joiners that they have an understanding, and anyone who's like kind of newer to the Evolve community, like what really is a belief. And obviously in correlation to what we're talking about today, we're talking about specifically limiting beliefs. And I know as a CBT therapist, licensed clinician, I think that it's really, really important. You and I both do CBT work with our clients. I want us to share what is the different, number one, what is a belief before we get into our 5 back and forth, which we're going to go at a rather more quick speed than I think in general. But let's start the conversation in groundwork, right? Number one, what is a belief? What's the difference between a limiting and empowering belief? And then number 3, why do beliefs matter as it pertains to what we're going to be talking about?
A belief is an idea that we hold to be extremely true because of the references we have to validate it. So it's a conviction. It's something that you hold with absolute certainty. That's what a belief is.
It's like a mindset. Yeah.
Not necessarily. It's a concept. It's a perception. And it's an idea about a certain thing or about yourself or about the world or about other people.
Awesome. Okay. So the way that I'm a visual learner. So a belief is like, if you could imagine like a bouquet of flowers. The belief is the bouquet of flowers. Each single flower in that is a thought, right? Is a perception. And so you gather all these thoughts and perceptions and you tie them up, and that's what becomes your belief system. And your belief systems, what's the difference to that point, B? I'm trying to bring you out of clinician world up until the general public, right? Which is interesting.
I love it. Can I give another example?
Please.
Think about it like a table. Think about a tabletop. The tabletop itself is the belief, right? And the thing holding up that belief is the legs, which are the references that you have that are validating that belief. It's keeping it together.
Right. Beautiful. Okay. So now that we've defined what a belief is, the difference between an empowering and a limiting belief.
I mean, a belief in and of itself is the same thing. What makes it empowering or what makes it limiting is really the texture of the belief. What's the concept of the belief? So love is a belief, right? Lovability, worthiness, and hope or hopelessness. Those are all the three main conceptual beliefs that we have. What makes it positive or negative is the actual context of the belief. So a limiting belief regarding love is kind of like in the last episode we did, love is not possible. There is no hope regarding love. It's not possible for me. An empowering belief is maybe in that same vein, I haven't had love yet, but it is possible. And as long as I keep aligned with who I authentically am, it will come my way. So that's the difference between a limiting and an empowering belief. It's really the context underneath it.
Beautifully said. The way that I see it is empowering. It's like really like hopeful and light, and it helps to kind of bring you across the challenge, whatever that journey is. And a limiting one is a belief that kind of keeps you stuck. A limiting belief keeps you stuck, and it doesn't enable you kind of swing that door open for change, for growth, for whatever you need to accomplish to get to where you aspire to be. It's like a mud. You get stuck in the mud and you're like in quicksand. The limiting belief, not only does it keep you stuck, but it also gets you deeper into the quicksand, right?
It's very disabling.
Very disabling. So, all right. So now we've defined what a belief is, the difference between a limiting and an empowering one, and how does that kind of correlate to now the importance with that fundamental understanding as it comes to how these beliefs, these limiting beliefs in particular that we're going to talk about, how they're hurting relationships. So now before we get into our top 5, for all of the listeners, what's super important for them to know about limiting beliefs and how that impacts their behavior?
All of our behavior is driven by our beliefs. So you act in accordance to the beliefs that you have. So if you believe that the world is a dangerous place, you're going to navigate your way through the world based on that belief. If you have a belief that people are genuinely good people and that they won't hurt you, you're going to experience the world and act in the world and have different thoughts and emotions than you would if you had the belief that the world is dangerous. So most of our beliefs are unconscious. We don't actually know that we have them, but we have enough evidence in our life to support them. So we believe these things to be wholeheartedly true. We have enough evidence to show us that it's true, even if it's true or not. We believe that it's true. And then we base our entire world, basically, in the way that we engage in the world on these beliefs. So when it comes to this topic, we have beliefs about love that are impacting the way we show up to that relationship, the way that we engage, the way that we navigate, and it really negatively impacts the quality of the relationship and the sustainability and the longevity of the relationship.
So B and I, for our listeners, obviously, we talk about beliefs all the time. And if you're a listener that has been listening to us for a while now, this episode, the way in which we just explicitly talked about beliefs, if you go back now and listen to all of our episodes, it's like those movies in National Treasure. You'll realize that they're actually these conversations. We talk about beliefs in every single episode that we do, because at our core, Bianca and I believe so deeply in breaking the limiting beliefs that every single one of us hold, because what does that do for us? That actually helps us evolve. Because if you have a mindset, if you have concepts, if you have thought patterns underneath that are holding up this belief system for you, you're going to behave in the world in a way that supports those rather than challenge those on the day-to-day. So when it comes to the beliefs that we're going to talk about today, Bianca and I have cultivated the top 5 that we've seen in our thousands of hours combined of coaching calls and working with others, live events that we've hosted, right? Our entire community, right? That we've seen day in and day out, these top 5 limiting beliefs that negatively impact relationships. We want each one of you to kind of think about, okay, where is this happening? Because again, to Bianca's point, it might be happening subconsciously. And what the goal of this episode is to, number 1, first just call them out how they are and how we see them so that you can prime your RES, the part of your brain that can recognize things on your own, right? Without having to really think about them. To prime your RES to see them for you, call them out when they happen, and then from that to help you break any sort of thought patterns that might be contributing to those limiting beliefs so that you don't become a part of the statistic, but rather you can be empowered to break these limiting beliefs if you do in fact find yourself either contributing to them or on the recipient's end. So B, what's your number one?
My number one is you have to sacrifice for love. I've seen this thrown around everywhere that like love is compromise. You have to sacrifice in order to love. And while I do believe that along the way there are conversations and like maybe some compromises that need to be had, I don't believe that you should. I really don't think love should come down to you having to sacrifice yourself for it. In any relationship, if you're consistently having to sacrifice yourself, sacrifice your identity, sacrifice your beliefs, your values, your aspirations to be in that relationship, it's probably not the best relationship. It's probably not one that is meant for you or that you're meant to be in. Like I've seen so many people, and I've genuinely done this too, where I believed that having love was the most important thing and I'll sacrifice anything to be with that person. And in all reality, that's not healthy. That's not adaptive. You shouldn't be sacrificing who you are and what you truly value in order to be in a relationship with somebody. So that is my number one.
And I would say after coaching so many people, those who do sacrifice for love, to Bianca's point, they break off parts of them. And a lot of people are in challenging healing spots as a result of having to face what they have sacrificed in terms of their own values, their own aspirations, their own, and that's where regret starts to come in. When you sacrifice parts and who you are and you kind of lock them up and put them in the closet, and then you enter into a relationship and that continues on, the regret and the anguish and the pain and the suffering that can come in that, I can validate that. I've seen that and I work with people directly after that happens. And then where do you go from there? Right. So,
and the resentment too, you end up resenting the person because it's like, well, I did all of these things for you. And it's like, well, yeah, you chose to do that. You can't put that on the other person. Right. Like that was a conscious choice that was made. Mm-hmm. So if you're feeling like you're having to sacrifice, maybe that's a bigger conversation you need to have with your partner.
For sure. Yeah. So my first one, what I'll say, it kind of actually ties into that too. And it complements that, which is the limiting belief that I've heard over and over again, which essentially I'm going to label as to be selfish is a sin. So oftentimes we have these belief systems that I found it most often culturally passed down, where to be selfish is actually a really negative connotation, right? There's a really negative meaning with selfishness, and that to be selfish is a bad thing. I really see this showing up with a lot of moms, and where when they enter into a relationship, they have been meeting their needs, their own personal needs, and then I'm talking about like self-care. I'm talking about, going to the gym, basic needs of exercise, of food, even like taking care of those needs. And when they enter into a relationship, a lot of the times they are putting their partner or their children above themselves. And while we can all find ourselves kind of in this space one way or another, that belief system to be selfish is a sin and it's a bad thing. We should not be doing that. That actually ends up emptying up the cup so often and so frequently that actually doesn't enable the individual to show up to the relationship as much and as full of a cup, which is what creates that unique spark in a relationship. So if you have this belief that being selfish is bad, it's actually the most important thing that I find time and time again is the groundbreaker change that happens when it comes to the belief systems of a relationship. Because this is a quote that I told Alan and has really like rippled into our relationship, because I know that he's had to rewire this in many ways. To be selfish is actually the most selfless thing, I believe personally, that one can do for their relationships. Because if I was constantly putting everyone else's needs above mine, I would not be able to show up as a full cup. Not on this podcast, not in our partnership, not for our team, right? And so I even struggle with this sometimes, right? Because I was very much assigned meanings as a woman, even, right? Talking about gender stereotypes, a belief is that you put everyone else's needs above yours. And if you were to choose to go to the gym or to put your makeup on before taking care of the kids because it makes you feel good, right? Like, then you're bad. That's not true, right? And so we have to work towards rewiring this belief system, because to be selfish does not mean that it is a sin.
I also think there's a difference between being selfish and being self-first, right? There are a lot of people who genuinely are selfish. It's like, I'm going to do whatever I want to do and I don't care how it impacts you.
Truth.
That's selfish. Self-first is I have needs as a human being that need to be met, and it's okay to have them. And the other component of this, it's okay to ask for what I need, right?
I like
So many of us are taught that we're not supposed to ask for what we want. We're not supposed to ask for what we need. And if we do, it's considered being selfish. So I just wanted to add that on top of your number
Nice.
2.
I've never heard
3.
that. Sorry, B. I've never heard self-first, and I actually really like that label, but I also don't want our listeners just thinking that, again, running with the negative connotation of selfishness, right? Selfishness can be selflessness in many ways. So, but I do love that self-first. So thank you for bringing that in. Number 3.
Yeah.
Hammer it.
Number 3, you and your partner are supposed to be exactly alike. This is a urban myth. Not true. Now, you and your partner should not be dead opposites, right? Like, there has to be a healthy balance. And again, balance does not mean 50-50. Balance is harmony. Maybe it's 80-20, maybe it's 95-5, maybe it's 70-30, whatever. But there needs to be a balance of you are your own person with your own likes, interests, and desires, and your partner is that too. And there need to be a good amount, whatever that is for you, of balance of beliefs, values, aspirations, needs, and whatever else that are harmonious, that do go hand in hand. But having your own, or not but, and having your own interests, your own personality, your own characteristics, those are really important, because they bring a sense of variety into the relationship. And it's so you're not just conforming to what your partner wants. Like, how many of us have ever been in any type of relationship where it's like, what you like, I like, what you want, I want, I am you and you are me and we're the same person. It's like, all right, stage 12 clinger. Like, I've been there, I've been that. Hello. And it's not healthy. It doesn't make for an adaptive, functional relationship. So there is a healthy balance of difference.
Yeah.
There needs to be.
What is this? This is my second. Yeah, the second, and I believe our fourth limiting belief that we have.
2 more.
Is the fact that I'm known. So a lot of people have this belief when they go into relationships, and I'm going to consider it a limiting belief because of what I've observed and what I've experienced and what I've helped people work through, is we go into this relationship and I always find it like there's a certain set point when there's this belief that partners experience, and it's subconscious. They don't really like tell each other, but like it starts to creep into the relationship, where there's a belief that because I am in an intimate relationship with you, I am therefore known. I'm known in this relationship. My partner knows me, right? So if you go out to dinner after a certain set of time that you guys have spent together, or level of depth that you've been able to experience each other, there's this belief that, oh, well, because we've made it this far, or because we've gotten this deep in our relationship, I'm known. And so this subconscious belief starts to seep in, and I'm considering it as a limiting belief because what I find in that is essentially the law of habituation, where when you believe that you are known in the relationship, while there's so much beauty that can come from that, right? You guys can finish each other's sentences, you know exactly what your partner likes, right? If I were to order sushi, I know exactly what Alan likes, right? Like, that's the thing. I find that over time, if you are interested in having a very adaptive, if your relationship is rooted in growth and you aspire to continuously develop and deepen your intimacy, what I find is this I'm known belief comes in and it actually pulls away from that novelty, from that adventure, from being known. And what do I mean by this in relationships? We are constantly evolving. I don't care if you stay at the same exact job, the same exact people, you are, even if it's small, you are evolving as a human being, right? We go through these phases of life. Our experience changes, who we talk to, our conversations, right? Things change. The only constant in this world is change. So as we go through this belief that I'm known, if you bring that to the table every single day in your relationship, you are leaving massive impact of discovery, of novelty, of adventure, and of getting to know your partner even better, right? Through their experience. And so when you find that creeping in, we call it the law of habituation, which is essentially constant exposure to something, you start to kind of let your guard down, which can be good to a relationship, but it also can be devastating. When you believe you know your partner, that's exactly when you know that you've started to turn off that curiosity, that learning, right? Starting to understand your partner in their next phase of their evolution. And I find that compounded over time is actually what ends up leading to some significant disconnects in partnerships where they look back after 50 years and they're like, where did we start to grow apart? Really comes down to this limiting belief of I'm known in this relationship. So not to keep everyone on their toes and keep walking on eggshells, but I think that when we kind of reflect on our relationships, it can be quite a limiting belief of regardless of how many dates you've gone on or how many experiences you've shared, there's always something to be known in your relationship to uncover.
There's always something to learn too. Like you said, we are growing every single day. And if you're not willing to learn your partner every single day, you can't have a relationship with them. Like Emilia and I have been in this friendship and business relationship for 3 years now? Jesus, it's been almost 3 years.
Yeah.
For 3 years, and we're still learning about each other. You know, I talk to her more than I talk to anyone. We talk to each other every single day. We've had deeper conversations with each other than anybody else, and we're still learning each other, you know? So don't get trapped into the, I know my partner and I know you and you're like this and you're like that. That doesn't allow you to grow, and it doesn't allow them to grow, and it doesn't allow the relationship to flourish.
So much. And it's so fun. Like when it's like, I didn't know that about you. Like whenever I find myself like doing that, I realize that this has actually crept in. And so kind of fielding the gate, if you will, or managing the line, you know, we don't realize we're doing this. This is something that happens so subconsciously. And when we get surprised by finding out something about a partner or learning something, that means that you have not been actively in the pursuit of getting to know them in this chapter. So that's something. Okay, last one. Number 5 this is a fun, big hammered. Okay, so the last one is that love should be easy. I have gotten a lot of flack, if you will, in the past for sharing this limiting belief with a lot of people. And when I am in couples coaching or coaching people in this, and I share this limiting belief, it's interesting to get the somatic expression. So people typically will like sit back and I see in their shoulders, they're like a little confused. There's a little like disgust in there of like, did she just really say that? Like love should be easy. I mean, I've been taught that my whole life. That's the message that I've been getting. Like it just works. It just should work. And for many of our experiences, yeah, absolutely. But this belief that love should be easy also subconsciously connotates that it should be easy all the time. And that's the thing. I find that couples that have this belief that love should be easy, they also believe that it should be easy all the time. And quite frankly, love is something that you earn every single day, that you work for, and that has work embedded within it. And that's obviously, you know, those who want extraordinary relationships, those who want incredible relationship, those who want relationships that they can feel seen, heard, loved, valued in consistently at a deeper level than anything that they've ever seen before, this is a limiting belief that must get busted, because what that does is it requires you to show up to the plate every single day. You know, when I ask couples about, you know, how much % of the relationship are you taking ownership for? How much do you believe that you contribute to? You know, what should a relationship be if you were to break it down in percentages? Oh, well, it's 50-50. No. No. That's that limiting belief right at play, right? Love should be easy, right? 50-50. That's that mentality. And that's where a lot of couples I do see, you know, growing apart. And so I subscribe to the belief that, yes, love can be easy, but it's a matter of putting in the work that makes it work, right? So I really deeply believe that love, it's only easy when you take and claim responsibility for 100% of what happens in the relationship. When you claim and own 100% of how you show up, right? And that's what you bring to the table. It's not like a waiting game. It's not, you know, you bring yourself 100% to the table. That's what dictates what love is and what the result or byproduct of it is. So when you see that limiting belief creeping in, likely it's because the messages that were passed down in your culture, in whatever family you grew up in. And I find it to be one of the biggest cop-outs, quite frankly, for people actually taking ownership and pulling themselves to do the hard work that makes it actually so fulfilling and deeply aligned.
Woof. Love is easy when you put in a ton of effort into it.
Yeah.
I know. Doesn't make sense, but it does if you think about it.
Oh. This was a heavy episode, heavier than I expected it to be, but I'm glad that we set the foundation of what beliefs are, because I can't tell you how many people that I run into that's like, what do you mean? Like, what does a belief mean to me? Like, I'll ask them, like, so what does belief mean to you? Like, and no one's really asked them that question. It makes sense, right? Because we dig ourselves and our worlds are so enmeshed in understanding the belief systems, because you and we understand that beliefs guide behavior. That's not common knowledge. And so all of our evolved listeners, I'm really excited for each one of you to bring these concepts, these limiting beliefs, and put them on and try them on and see where might the subconscious be playing you, right? How is it Miyagiing you in your own ability to really cultivate that love, that relationship that you really aspire to have, right? Whether you're in a relationship right now, or you're seeking one, or you're working on yourself to attract something that eventually you are really proud of, right? Because you've cultivated that, right? All of these limiting beliefs will in some way, shape, or form touch you in your journey. And I know that because I've seen it, I've experienced it, I've worked with so many people that have come across this in one way, shape, or form. And it's a matter of how much are we pulling up to the plate to try to break these cycles, to try to replace these limiting beliefs with one that is more empowering.
Well said, my friend. Episode suggestion?
My episode suggestion is 161. Are you dismissing the limiting or the little things?
Ooh,
my bad.
That's a newbie. 122. Why do I feel so insecure?
Oh, that's a good one. I missed that one. I gotta re-listen to that one.
Yeah, man.
Heck yeah.
Hey, Em.
Hey.
What do we have coming down the pipeline?
My goodness, y'all. All right. So if you have not heard, you're gonna know. And what's really exciting about this is that as a listener, you are getting real-time updates with, obviously every single week. We have 2 episodes a week. So whatever comes down the pipeline, you are likely the first line, unless you're in Out of the Mud, in which case that's a different story. But anyways, what we have coming down, what we have out there for you to look forward to by the end of Q1. So like right around that March, April timeframe, right? Looking at spring, hopefully you'll be looking at flowers, and you'll be looking at the opportunity that's on the table for you to get involved with what we have, which is called Evolve Group Coaching. So this is for those of you, if you're struggling in any capacity with respects to beliefs. Bianca and I have curtailed a very specific curriculum for all of us to get into these belief systems, the things that are holding us back. And now we're making final edits and we're making it all nice and beautiful for our experience, but it's going to be for those people if you're struggling in any of the things that we talk about here with all the podcasts, right? This is for you to get into a more intimate setting with people that are so deeply involved with their own growth journeys. You know, it's hard to find people out there that are so as invested in their personal growth and their evolution just as much as you are. And so we're going to get you around. We haven't finished the number, but other people that are interested in getting a little bit deeper into some of these concepts that Bianca and I are in and out of every single day. We're going to give you the goods, but we're also going to teach you how to fish, right? So this group coaching is going to be something truly extraordinary. It's going to be our first pass at group coaching, and we cannot wait to have our community be able to try out some of the things that honestly Bianca and I have been working on for decades at this point. So we do have an early bird sign up link so that you can get the information before it comes out, so that you're not missing out once we do launch all that information, and so that you can get in before these seats fill up. It will be a limited room because we want to make sure that we take y'all on a journey and can have the best evolved experience ever. So if that sounds like something that you might be interested in, or you just want a little bit more information, please click the link in the show notes. There's going to be a link so that you can make sure that you get that information. And Evolve Group Coaching coming to you in April, March, Q1 2023. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. And thank you so much to everyone for listening. And we will see you next time.
Bye everyone.